Hello everyone, Crafty Josephine here. So today I'm going to show you a different kind of sock gnome than what you've probably seen in the past. This is one where I sew, and I know that typically sock gnomes people don't do a lot of sewing. I do honestly believe you could probably just use a glue gun. Wherever I sew something, you could probably just run a line of glue and still get pretty close to the same gnome. But the reason why I sew these gnomes is because these are actually made out of some of my old socks, and these gnomes are just for me. But sometimes when I have cute socks and then I wear a hole in the heel, I get kind of sad that I just have to throw them away. So basically what I did was just get rid of the bottom part of the sock and keep, you know, the top part and the part that goes around your ankle, and made gnomes out of it. So I made little arms and a hat. And then, so in this video I'm going to show you how I made this one, although they're pretty much the same. The only differences really are, you know, obviously the socks, but I put a little bit of a mustache on this guy just for fun. And then what they're holding. I show you in the video how I felted this little cup of hot chocolate with the whipped cream on top. But if you didn't feel like felting anything or have never felted before, or maybe just didn't want to in this case, you could obviously just find something else for your gnome to hold if you wanted. This is a sled that I got on Amazon. I got it part of a bulk package, but I think you can get sled ornaments just about anywhere. Hobby Lobby, Dollar Tree, you know, they're pretty popular. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to glue this to his hand, or Hobby Lobby has, this is from a few years ago, but they always carry these like miniature ornaments if you go into that section of the store. So you could just, you know, cut the loop off, and that could be something he could hold that I think would be really cute too. And I was trying to make these gnomes more winter themed than Christmas so that I could keep them out, you know, during January. And then I just had one more that I wanted to show you. This one I actually made last year. And this wasn't a pair of socks that I had worn a hole in. This was a pair of socks, Christmas socks that I had, that my dog, when he was a puppy, must have gotten hold of from the laundry basket and chewed one of these socks horribly. But I was able to save, you know, parts of what was left from what he didn't chew. And I made arms, and then kind of gave my gnome like a little ugly sweater. And because I, you know, wanted to be able to see the sweater pattern, I made this one a girl and just had little braids going down the sides. But just used part of the sock to make the legs too. And then I just had, you know, little felt boots, put a little rickrack on there. And then this is a thrifted sweater that I used for the hat. So just showing you another way, you know, instead of going and buying socks, you can literally make a gnome with free supplies that you have at home if you have a cute pair of socks that, you know, just you can't wear anymore. Alright, so let's get started. This is just for me, but I thought I'd show you how I'm going to use this, because I'm going to do it different than your typical sock gnome that you've probably seen before. I'm going to get a pair of gnome arms and his hat out of these socks. And I'm hoping that this chalk is going to show up good on camera. Hopefully. Nope, not at all. Here, let's try the Sharpie. I think that'll work a little better. I think I can see this. Hopefully you guys will be able to see it as well. I think you can kind of see it. That's going to work for me. Let's go a little darker there. And the patterns that I use for my gnomes, I will put a link to my blog in the description below. And then you'll be able to get those patterns for free on my blog. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this out first, and I'm cutting kind of up the middle of the back of the sock here. Okay, so if you flip them over, what I want is like a really tall triangle, and it'll be the front and back of the hat. So I'm kind of just going to decide here. Let me get my ruler. There we go. And I'm going to do 3.5. Actually, you know what? Since this is my smaller gnome, I'm going to go smaller. Sorry to confuse you. I'm going to do just 3, because I think 3.5 will be too large for my small gnome. I'm using the wrong marker again. And I suppose I could have cut the hat part first, but I just felt like it would be easier just to get that arm out of the way so that I could kind of flatten the sock out. And then I can make it however tall I want. I think I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, go all the way up. Maybe even I'll go a little bit up into the toe so that once I get sewn to that corner with my seam allowance, I'll be all the way up to the top. So I think we'll call right out there. Hopefully you guys can see this. Oh, and I'm out of, there we go. I'm just making a dot for myself, and then I'm just going to connect that to the dot I made down at the bottom here. Let me zoom out a little bit for you. Hopefully you can see most of that. So I just made a really tall triangle with a 3-inch base. And how tall you make it is completely up to you. You could make a much shorter hat if you wanted. I think what I'm going to do, like how I'm thinking it out as I go, you know, is I'm going to make this kind of a floppy hat to the side, and I think I'm going to put a pom-pom on it. And I also think I'm going to have him hold maybe some hot chocolate with whipped cream. Make him a little mug to hold. I thought that the pattern on this sock would be kind of good for winter time. I don't know about you guys, but right after Christmas I kind of think like, I don't know, like blues or maybe like pastel purples and pinks or something. It just seems, I don't know, icy and cold like. And I'll just do the same on this side. Alright, so I mentioned I'm doing my 3-inch base for this gnome, and these are the patterns for that. You'll have better copies on yours on my blog. But I'm just going to use this gray felt that I have. And I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about how I made that decision about what color to use, because I have lots of colors of felt. And it just was that the hat is kind of a similar gray to this. So I wasn't trying to match that necessarily, but I was thinking, what fur will I use for his beard that will pop? And I do have this really pretty blue fur that I'm dying to use, but I felt like it was just going to blend way too much, and then it wouldn't look so great after, you know, you got it all said and done. So I decided I was going to go ahead and just use white fur for the beard, so that that would pop from the sweater. And then it would kind of pop from the body color here too. And when you think about it, once you put the arms on, and like I said, my arms are going to come forward and probably hold a mug of hot chocolate, you really don't see the body, you know, with the beard and everything else going on. I mean, you almost have to turn the gnome around to see the body, which, you know, most people aren't going to display their gnome that way. So it really doesn't matter a whole lot. But I just try to keep it, you know, within maybe the family of colors that I'm using, or something that at least looks okay together. Hey you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and start by folding my arm pieces in half, right sides together, the long way, and then I'm just going to sew about a 1/4-inch seam right here. Now, I'm not going to have a finished looking edge for my hand to stick out of. It's going to be rough. If you wanted yours to be finished, you could fold that under first and then sew it down and then sew up your length there. I don't mind a rough edge sometimes, and for this particular gnome I'm totally fine with it. But you just might want to make yours maybe even a little bit longer, you know, extend your pattern just a little bit to make your arms longer so you can fold it over. Alright, so I've gotten my 2 little arms sewn up, and now I'm going to go ahead and sew up that triangular hat, obviously leaving the bottom open, but just sewing up these sides here. My base again was 3 inches, and then you can just make the hat however tall you want. I would recommend probably at least, 7 inches tall, but if you want to go as long as 12, it's really up to you and how long you like your hats. Alright, so I have my gnome body here, and it's a cone shape. So you just take the circular base and you pin the rounded edge of that quarter circle all the way around. And I'm going to sew that up first, and then I'm going to sew the straight edge together, leaving about a 2-inch opening. I usually put mine at the bottom, but certainly you could put it at the top if you prefer, to fill my gnome up later. Alright, so I have all my pieces sewn, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut off all my extra threads, and I'm going to go around the circular edge here with some pinking shears. If I didn't have these, I could just go around and cut some notches. I won't lie, I don't always do this step, but I probably always should, but sometimes even I feel laziness. Alright, now that I got everything turned right side out and the threads cut, I'm going to go ahead and just make the weight for the bottom of my gnome, and I just use a little bag of rice, and I use a rubber band to get it tied off, and I try to, smush it into a circular shape so it'll fit nicely in the bottom. I want to use my fabric scissors on my plastic here. All right. Alright, so I'm just going to cut the shape for the beard, and I usually just do like a U shape, and I don't measure, but it's a smaller gnome, and this fur is, decently long, so even if you cut a pretty short beard, the hair is still going to hang down pretty low, so you don't need to cut a really large beard for a gnome this size. And I always cut on the back with an X-Acto knife. You can cut with scissors, but cut from the back, and do your best to only cut the fabric part of it and not cut the fur part of it. Otherwise you might end up with a strange looking haircut for your gnome's beard. I think I'll just use my scissors to clean up these points here. Alright, so I'm just going to glue my beard on, and I just put it so that it's, you know, just about touching the ground there a little bit, not a whole lot. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue some pom-poms in for the hands. That's part of the reason that I don't mind not finishing the edges of this one, because, you know, with the pom-pom hands and gluing them in, I figure that's going to keep that sweater, or, well, in this case a sock, from unraveling. I don't know, sometimes I just think for whatever reason that the unfinished edge looks kind of cute on their hands. I don't know. Alright, trying to get all my gluing mostly out of the way here while I got the glue gun heated up. I just look for the side of the nose that isn't so pretty, but this one's actually pretty decent, so I don't think I can go wrong. I got lucky. Now I'm just going to attach our little arms to the body. I'm just going to put my seam side down. I'm going to sew the hat on too. You could, of course, hot glue these if you prefer. But when I sew the hat on, I'll make sure to catch the arm again too, kind of just to double up on keeping it attached here. So I've gotten out my needle felting things. If you saw my video where I made a jumbo Christmas gnome, I had him holding a really big cup of hot chocolate. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but just much smaller, which might be a nice easy project for someone who wanted to start needle felting. In that video, because I made such a large mug, I put in the middle of it just regular fiber fill to help take up some of the bulk of that mug, because this stuff can be kind of pricey. You don't need very much of it for this project, but it can be a little expensive. But this one is so small that I won't need to fill it with anything. So I'm going to start with the hot chocolate, and you're basically just trying to make it, you know, you hold it in the shape that you want it to be, and then you just poke it, and with time it starts to stay in that shape. So now this blue part is going to be the actual mug, and I'll just be kind of pulling it around to cover the hot chocolate in all the spots except for the very top. Alright, and now I'm going to try to make the handle here. So again, you're just kind of smushing the wool roving into the shape that you want, and then using the needle to keep it there permanently. Alright, that handle's probably a little thicker than what I wanted, so if I were you, you were going to do this, just try to make your handle maybe a little thinner than that, but I'm okay with it. So now I'll show you how I make the whipped cream, and you just want to pull it real thin. I usually kind of twist it a little. So as I attach this, I want just a little bit of the hot chocolate to poke out. So I'm attaching the whipped cream, and I'm kind of going in a spiral motion or direction with the whipped cream as I go, and just leaving a little bit of that hot chocolate to show. Which is just a personal preference. You don't have to let any of it show, and then you wouldn't have to use any brown if you didn't want to. Alright, so I told you earlier that I had this blue fur that I really like, and I've only gotten to use it once so far, so I'd like to use it again. So what I think I'm going to do is make his pom-pom out of this. Usually I like to make my pom-poms out of a fur that's not quite this long of hair, but I suppose if it's much too long and it bothers me, I could just cut it. That makes me a little nervous trying to give my pom-pom a haircut, but I think it would be okay. So you just want a circle, and obviously the bigger of a circle that you make, the bigger your pom-pom will be. I don't want too big of one since this gnome is pretty little. And like I said, because the fur is so long, it's already going to seem probably kind of big with such long fur. That may or may not get trimmed down. We'll see. Alright, so I've got some blue thread. I've doubled it up and put a nice big knot in it. And I'm just going to make some stitches near to the edge, going around in a circle. Stitches are relatively big. Alright, so you just pull it to gather it, and then I'm going to stuff it with a little bit of fiber fill. And then to just try to close up that hole even a little bit more, I'm just going to kind of stitch back and forth. Across to try try to gather the sides together and close that opening up as best I can. It's pretty good. I'm losing track of it. And not again. All right. And now I can just go ahead and attach this to the end of his hat. Again, you can totally just glue this on. Alright, so like I said, this pom-pom's, the hair on it is a lot longer than what I'm used to. I'll have to decide whether or not I like that okay, or if I should give it a haircut, but I feel like if I gave it a haircut, it'd make it worse. But I think it's okay. I think it's kind of fun. So the last step that I have, unless of course I give that pom-pom a haircut, is to attach the mug to his hands. So I made my knot again, and I'm just gonna sneak it in through his sweater here, kind of hide my knot down in there. And again, this is where you kind of look and see which way looks nicer to you. I think I like this way. Kind of hide the bad side. So this makes me a bad dog owner, I know, but I don't usually walk my dog a whole lot in the wintertime because I don't like to be cold. But it's been, you know, kind of unseasonably warm here in Michigan, so the past few days I've been walking him, and creature of habit that he is now expecting and trying to demand right now a walk, and he just keeps coming back to this room. Normally he used to just ignore what I did during the day, but he wants a walk. So maybe I'll just have to bundle up, even though it's much colder today. Give my dog a walk, because he deserves it. To be fair though, he doesn't like the cold either. I don't think he's remembering how cold it is right now. But we have a little doggy coat we can put on him. I'm just catching a little bit of my wool roving here. And when I'm all done, tie my knot off here. Again, just try to hide it down in the gnome sleeve. So I think I'm not going to risk making the pom-pom worse by me giving it a haircut, because I feel like that could be disastrous. And I think I can live with the fun long pom-pom. So there he is, a sock gnome made a different way. What do you guys think? Have you tried needle felting before? Or do you think you'll just find something else for your gnome to hold, or have him hold nothing? They're cute anyway. Alright, well thanks so much for watching the video, and if you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe so you can see more Crafty Josephine videos in the future. Thanks, and have a great holiday season. If I don't make another video before Christmas, Merry Christmas, and see you in the new year. Bye-bye.